Welcome to the Marketing Execution Podcast. This is the show for tech founders and leaders building B2B products and technologies. We show you how to go further, faster to get the business results you need.
From strategies to big exec dreams, catch the buzz and join the execution. Marketing Convo.
I have seen many tech companies hit a growth ceiling after achieving product market fit, yet understanding when and how to expand after PMF is the secret to unlocking new revenue streams. Today, we will explore how tech companies can effectively use the Adjacency Matrix to identify growth opportunities that align with their existing strengths. You will learn a proven framework for scaling after product market fit, including how to assess market saturation, diversify offerings, and prioritize initiatives with the highest potential ROI. Subscribe to the Marketing Execution Podcast for insights on navigating growth challenges with confidence. Drawing from my experience scaling startups to over $500 million in revenue, we will uncover actionable strategies that deliver measurable results. Now join Tim and Lisa as we dive into today's topic.
All right. Glad to be back for another deep dive. You ever get that feeling, when your business is really humming, like you've nailed the whole product market fit thing, customers are happy, things are good. But then it's like, okay, what's next? Do we stick with what's working, or is it time to level up, aim for those bigger goals, new horizons? That's what we're digging into today.
And that's a question that almost every successful business hits at some point, right? It's that classic dilemma. It's not just about growing for the sake of growing. It's about being strategic, making the moves that build on what you've already achieved.
Totally. And that's where this adjacency matrix comes in. We're going to break that down today, pulling from this workshop by Jason Cohen, who gets into the nitty-gritty of using this tool to make those tough expansion decisions. He even uses WP Engine as an example, which I always appreciate, seeing how it works in the real world,
And what's interesting about the adjacency matrix is, it's about minimizing risk, but it's more than that. It's about finding those expansion paths that are almost like quick wins because they build on what you're already good at. You're not starting from scratch.
Right. Instead of getting pulled in a million directions, chasing every shiny new opportunity, this matrix helps you see which paths make the most sense. The ones that build on that momentum you've already created. I'm liking this already.
It's a good way to look at it. But to really understand how it works, got to start with the why. Why is this whole adjacency thing so important when you're thinking about expansion?
Yeah, let's talk about that because, I get it. Sticking close to what you know can reduce risk. But isn't there something to be said for bold moves? Sometimes you got to, risk it to get the biscuit right.
Sure, sometimes. But think of it this way. When you try to do too much too fast, when you stray too far from your comfort zone, you run into problems. You overstretch your resources. You might not have the know-how to navigate this new space. And suddenly the risks are sky high and the chances of actually pulling it off, they shrink.
Oof, yeah, recipe for disaster. Not exactly what we're going for.
Exactly. And what works for one business might be a total flop for another. It all comes down to making sure your expansion plans line up with what you've already got, your existing strengths. Like what works for a huge tech company might not work for a small startup, right? That's where the adjacency matrix comes in handy. It's not a one-size-fits-all thing. It helps you make smarter choices based on where your business is at.
Okay, so adjacent in this context means sticking close to home, playing to our strengths, not going too far afield. But we're not just randomly picking something close. This matrix thing is the key. How do we actually go about building one of these?
It's actually simpler than you might think. You start by just listing out all the main functions of your business. So that's things like your marketing, your sales, your customer service, product development, engineering, could even be your business model itself. Really anything that's a core part of how you operate. Don't be afraid to adjust that list to really match how your specific business is set up.
Got it. Lay out the pieces, the things that keep the lights on and the customers happy. Then what?
Then you got to brainstorm. Think about all those tempting expansion ideas, the ones that have been kind of floating around in your head. Is it going after a whole new customer segment? Is it launching a different type of product? Or maybe it's expanding into a new geographic market. Write it all down. No idea is too crazy at this point.
I like it. No judgment, just pure brainstorming.
Yeah.
So we've got our core functions listed out. We've got this big old list of expansion ideas, some kind of crazy, some maybe not so much. This is where the matrix part comes in, right?
Now we got to connect the dots. And the matrix part, it's just a visual to help you see this. So imagine like a simple grid, right? You've got your business functions, those are across the top, your expansion ideas going down the side. And each box in that grid, that's what we're going to call out the potential impact of that specific expansion idea on that specific business function.
I'm starting to see it. So let's say we're thinking about going after a whole new type of customer. We'd be looking at how that impacts our marketing. Does it change how we do sales? What about our customer support? That kind of thing.
You got it. And that's where the adjacency part really comes into play. For each of those interceptions, those boxes on your matrix, you're going to assign a rating. How much change is needed?
Okay, so what's the rating scale here?
We like to keep it simple. We got 3 levels. First, you've got trivial changes. That means it's really no big deal, a few tweaks here and there, but your existing processes, your existing teams, they can handle it.
Trivial, I like it. What's next?
Next up, adjustments. So this means it's going to take some effort. Maybe you got to do some retraining or shift some resources around. But the important thing is it's still doable within your existing structure. You don't need to blow everything up, you know?
Makes sense. So that leaves...
Overhaul. That's the big one. This means we're talking major changes. Bringing in a bunch of new people, maybe even restructuring whole teams to make this expansion idea actually work.
And I'm guessing if we're seeing a lot of overhauls on our matrix, that's probably not a great sign.
Yeah, I mean, it's not always a deal breaker, but it's definitely a red flag, right? It means that particular path, it's going to require a pretty fundamental shift in how you're doing things. Higher risk, higher investment, you know?
And this is why just chasing growth, like at all costs, that's where things can go sideways. Sure, maybe you capture that new market, but at what cost to everything else? This matrix really forces you to think that through before you jump.
100%. And you know who else did this? Back in 2013, WP Engine. Remember them?
They were doing well, but they knew they couldn't just stay there. Needed to find that next level.
Right. They were hitting a ceiling, so they took this adjacency matrix and they used it to compare a couple of different paths forward. Path 1, the big swing, go after the enterprise market, you know, those huge companies, but try to win them over with the products they already had.
Ambitious. I bet that one got a few overhauls on their matrix.
Yeah.
What was path 2?
Okay, so path 2 was interesting. Same target market, those big enterprise companies, but with a twist. They thought, what if instead of going after the whole pie, we just focus on one specific need those companies have, specifically helping them run their marketing campaigns?
Ah, so same market, different approach. How'd that play out on the matrix? Was it as clear-cut as it sounds?
That's where it gets really interesting. Going after the entire enterprise market, trying to win them over as full-on customers with their existing product, I mean, that was going to be tough. And the Matrix showed them why. Just from a sales perspective, their whole process was set up for these smaller, quicker deals. They would have had to completely overhaul it. Service, same thing. Enterprise clients, they expect a different level of support. And then their actual product. They probably would have to make some pretty big changes to satisfy those big clients. Lots of risk, lots of investment.
Okay, so maybe a little too ambitious.
Yeah.
What about path 2, the whole marketing campaign angle? How did that look on the matrix?
Way more adjacent. They could basically use their existing platform, their existing customer service model, even their existing sales process with just a few tweaks. Pretty much every department, minimal changes. It was like the definition of a quick win.
So less risk, less investment, but still a chance to get their foot in the door with these big companies. By narrowing their focus, they actually found a way to play to their strengths. Kind of counterintuitive, but it makes sense.
And that's why this adjacency matrix thing, it's so useful. It can help you see these opportunities that you might not have even thought about. Sometimes the smartest move isn't the biggest swing, you know. Sometimes it's about taking those smaller, more strategic steps that really align with where you're at right now, not just where you want to be down the road.
This has been awesome. But the matrix, I mean, it's a tool, right? It's not like it makes the decision for us. It shows us the risks, the potential investment, all of that. But ultimately, we still have to choose. So how do we actually do that? Let's say we've run the matrix and we've got a couple of options that look pretty good, pretty adjacent. Do we just go with the absolute easiest one? Least risk, smallest investment.
That's where you got to use your judgment. Remember, the matrix, it's a tool to help us make a decision. It's not going to make the decision for us. So We got to weigh what the matrix is telling us against, like our appetite for risk, what's our gut telling us, and just as importantly, what's the potential upside? Because yeah, maybe one path is a little risky or a little more investment, but the potential payoff, the reward, maybe it's way bigger.
It's a balancing act. No easy answers, but at least we've got a framework.
And don't underestimate the people side of this. Cohen, he talks about how important it is to make sure your team is on board. If everyone understands the why behind the strategy, why you're choosing to expand in a certain way, they're going to be way more bought in, even if it means some changes, some growing pains.
So true. Well, I think we've covered a ton of ground today. We talked about why expanding strategically is so important, how finding those adjacent opportunities can be a real game changer, and how this adjacency matrix can help make sure you're focusing on the right things at the right time. Plus, we got to see it in action with WP Engine, how they actually use this stuff to make a smart decision about their own growth.
And I think the biggest takeaway is this. It's not just about avoiding risk. It's about finding those opportunities that really fit, that line up with your business where it's at right now.
Love that. And to everyone listening, I challenge you to think about your own business. What are you really good at? Because those strengths, those areas where you excel, that just might be the key to unlocking that next stage of growth. And if you want to go even deeper on this whole adjacency matrix thing, I definitely recommend checking out Jason Cohen's article. He goes into even more detail, more examples. It's definitely worth a read. Until next time, keep exploring, keep innovating, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.
The Marketing Execution Podcast is produced by Growth Stage Marketing. We are on a mission to see your company reach wild success using marketing pods.
Too big accept dreams. Catch the buzz and join the execution. Marketing combo.
Thank you for listening and being a part of the marketing execution movement and community. To learn how growth stage marketing clients reach more buyers and drive business impact, go to growthstage.marketing. That's growthstage.marketing.